All right. Well, welcome back to the House Committee on Government Operations and Military Affairs. We're doing our second chunk of work this morning and are going to be hearing presentations on a few of the charter change bills that are before us to tee up some of our work for the next couple of weeks. So I want to welcome Representative McFawn from Barrie here to tell us a little bit about H418. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. Representative Topper McFawn. Believe it or not, 418, the situation that we're correcting on this goes back to when I was the chairman of the select board. And that is about 18 to 20 years ago. We had the same problem. We have had an assessor for many, many years hired to do the work that the listers do, that they did before. They haven't been doing that work for years. All they've been doing is reviewing the work that the assessor accomplished. And for the life of me, I don't know why it's taken this long to get to this point. But that's the first thing that this bill talks about. The other is the constable. We have a constable right now who's been elected. That constable will stay in office until the new constable is appointed. I know the constable personally. He does not want to be the constable anymore, so it's going to be somebody new. So essentially, those are the two things that this charter amendment talks about. It's been voted by the town at the last year. All the paperwork has been submitted. Everything is in order. And we would appreciate it if you people, if this committee would move it forward.
Yes, this is definitely been a long conversation, huh?
Pardon me?
It's been a very long conversation around this. Yeah.
Oh, well, in the beginning, it was, we should do this because the listers aren't really doing the job that they were doing years ago.
Yes.
And there was a long conversation about the constable, whether or not we wanted to keep that individual to be elected, or did the select board want to appoint him or her? And that's where it came down. They want to appoint.
Okay. And I'm sorry, I came in as this was just starting, Representative.
Everything's been done. All of the paperwork. I mean, this thing's just ready to go.
It's baked. Representative Marecki.
Top, do you remember approximately what the vote was?
It was a lot in favor of it. I can't remember what the vote was. But I voted for it.
All right, that's all I need to know.
Do you remember which election this
It was back in May, I think, at our last town meeting.
Okay, it was the town meeting of
Yeah.
22.
This is May 10, 2021.
It says right here, May 10th.
Oh, great. It's right in the section.
I didn't notice it until you asked me that question.
Great. Well, it sounds fairly straightforward. I think, Ashley, were you here prepared to do walkthroughs, or should we punt on that until we have Tucker with us?
I mean, I was not prepared.
Okay, we don't need to. I think the way that we're going to take these up is just to hear the intros today, obviously, so we can get a little bit of a flavor for how all these are, and then we'll come back to them when we are outside of the frantic nature of all the floor reports and everything. So we're trying to be a little bit more efficient by at least getting a flavor of some of these bills, but this one seems pretty straightforward, Representative McFawn. So we're going to combining the lister's duty with the appointed assessor.
The assessor will do all of their duties.
And moving the constable to an appointed constable.
In matter of fact, the assessor's been doing it for years.
So really on that score, it's just bringing the charter in line with actual practice.
Real.
Okay. Well, thanks for joining us and beginning our parade of charters. We had an early one with that Colchester Fire District, but now we're getting into some municipal charters, which.
Listen, easy one.
Yes, a special place in my heart, the municipal charters work. I love that stuff.
So do I.
This is nice.
Yeah.
It's nice. I will tell you, there were a number of conversations I needed to have with Connor Kennedy, and the walk up the stairs, I got my steps in for real this morning. I went back and forth like 4 times, and we were a little far away from our other house committees upstairs, except for approach and education. That we're a little far away, but having a nice big room is really it's a privilege. Great. Well, I think we'll be able to pick this one back up next week, and I don't anticipate any issues, but looking forward to having Ledge Council just give us the official walkthrough once we have.
Would you like me to stay while that's?
I think what we'll do is have Tucker, just because Ashley I don't think was ready to go ahead and do the full walkthroughs today. So we'll have Tucker in, and if we have questions for you, we'll reach out. If that makes sense.
All right. Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
See you later, buddy.
Coordinate on the list for at some point in the next week or so. We'll come back to it when Tucker's available. Great. So
I'll do that one.
You'll do that one. Is that because you want to give Representative McFawn a hard time, or?
Just a little poking.
That's great. So next up, we are looking at H 146, which is an act relating to, we've dealt with this issue before temporarily in the Northeast Kingdom Waste Management District. H 146. So Representative Troiano, would you like to take the hot seat and tell us a little bit?
Sure. Yeah.
I think we'll at least need to be reminded about what the issue is here, but I'm very familiar with this particular bill.
Great. Well, thanks all for having me here this morning. I'm filling in for Representative Sims, whose bill was the lead sponsor on this bill. I'm one of the sponsors. So Northeast Kingdom Waste Management District is, I guess, my understanding, the only district left that is passing their budget via vote by the public. And it has proven to be unwieldy, to say the least. And as a member of the Board of Civil Authority, I can attest to that, having been at many vote counts where, even on general elections, people just pass by that ballot and don't take it. So it really is not representative of input from the communities regarding the budget. Plus, there's not a lot of information available for the public to analyze and to really know what they're voting for. So in, 2022, was it? For COVID, that method was suspended temporarily. And as with the other districts, it will be by the vote of the directors, the management directors, I guess. And what this bill is asking, that sunsets this year, so that this bill just asks for the sunset to be removed from this and allow Northeast Kingdom Waste Management District to be able to vote the same as every other district in the state and not put it out to the public and have lots of uninformed people voting on their budget.
Over 40 member towns. I mean, it's
49 member towns. Yeah, that's part of what made it unruly as well. It is one of the bigger districts, yes.
My understanding is that the existing charter for the Northeast Kingdom Waste Management Districts allows the board of directors to vote to change the charter, to move through the charter process.
Correct.
So it's a little different than a lot of our towns. So we'll just want to make sure that we check in with Ledge Council. But if I understand it correctly, if there doesn't seem to be a problem with us, it's a little different because there wasn't a public vote like we
It
were.
is, that's correct, right?
To change the charter, but the charter for the NEK WMD already says they can do it. Am I understanding that right?
Yes, that is right. See if I missed anything.
So this would basically make permanent the practice that we allowed them to do during COVID.
Correct. Which is consistent with all the other districts in the state.
Have any questions for Representative Troyan?
Did we discuss this? No, we talked about it before the extensions. I mean, it's.
We included
Yeah.
the extension for another year in age 42.
So it's understood.
Yeah, so I think we haven't heard anybody from the Northeast Kingdom that was decrying the change. So I don't think this will be too tough, but we'll do.
We'll give it to Higley.
Yeah. Well, are they part of he's on the line. Are they?
No, I think they're a member town.
Yes.
Up in Lowell, yeah. I believe that's the case.
Take it.
So it sounds like we can put H-146 in the list of ones we should have Tucker walk us through and potentially do a vote on when we do our next round of work on these. We're kind of getting a flavor for which ones are complicated and are going to need a lot of testimony and which ones we probably could
This one is simple.
and get done. And I think this committee last biennium and then also this biennium in the context of H-42 is fairly familiar with the issue. So I think we can put it to bed hopefully this year.
Okay, that'd be great. I certainly appreciate the work that I looked at your board over there and see all the bills on it. And I certainly can appreciate the work that this committee's been doing this year, last year, and I'm sure into the future. So, but I'm going up to mark up the capital budget right now as we're due out tomorrow. So
I know this is a busy week for those of you on the money committee, so I will let you get back upstairs and give Representative Evans my thanks for loaning you to us for a few minutes.
no problem. Thanks, everyone.
Good to see you, Representative.
So we have a few minutes, and I wanted to just acknowledge that we have former member of House Gov.Ops, Samantha LaFave here in the room. So Sam, great to see you. Were you coming in just to see this parade of charter changes today?
The wind spoke to you. That's awesome.
No, nice to have you back. So we've got a few minutes until, so we had scheduled that one at 11:10. But yeah, I'm thinking that we probably take up at least a couple of these charters toward the end of next week. So if anybody, like Representative Murwick, he was saying, is like really excited about any particular one, I'm happy to take volunteers for who wants to report these more straightforward charter change bills, because as is the tradition of this committee, after crossover, we'll be taking them up as we have time in between some of our work on the bulkier policy bills that are coming over for the Senate, and we'll start racking up quite a few bills and hopefully moving things from the left side over to the right side and balancing out our wall here. We do have a number of them, and I think there's the town of Essex has a charter that's coming, and I'm aware of one that isn't on the wall yet, that Shelburne has a bill coming that includes a local option tax that they had voted, I think, in November. So we'll have
These always move as individual bills, right? Has anybody ever bundled charter changes?
You really don't want to do that for a town. I think we might want to. Yeah.
I'm an efficiency person.
Yeah.
Tell me why we shouldn't.
Same reason why an omnibus bill isn't always good, because there's
subjective.
pieces of different things that may not be agreeable to everybody.
It's I think I don't know that it's in rules, but it's definitely tradition that kind of each town gets its, they get their moment in the sun, they get their own vote. And there's efficiency in terms of our time, but what I am learning a little bit being the new chair and having done a couple of these bills that have multiple pieces, to Representative Hango's point, sometimes we can save ourselves time, but then increase our grief and confusion by trying to put things together. So it's a balancing act, and
And that's what I thought you were gonna say. I just had to ask the question because it's just like I've never seen it in practice. I was just curious why the practice wasn't practiced.
I think a lot of towns also feel like there's anxiety. Well, there's anxiety with any policy when we bundle it together in an omnibus bill, but when it's something that a town really cares about, even if it seems like it's straightforward to us, just kind of to give them their own package, it's their own vote.
Yep. I hear you.
And they don't, as we know, people reading bills and not necessarily understanding our process here go, why is that Shelburne thing on with my Barry bill or whatever, So
Oh, I totally could see the email traffic. So yes, nope, question answered, thank you.
Or even worse, why is my Berkshire bill on with Burlington?
Oh, yeah.
Can you imagine?
Oh, I see it. Yeah, okay.
So I noticed on the Senate calendar, which I should never look at the Senate calendar.
Yeah, why did you do that to yourself?
That they are discussing an amendment to the charter of the town of South Hero, and I'm wondering what in the world is going on there.
What is the bill number?
S60.
S60.
Because
Is it the
I
same
don't
as the
know.
one that?
South Hero, you said? Michael Morgan would know all about that.
Yeah.
I'm curious if that's the same thing.
I had noticed that it was on the Senate Gov.Ops wall at one point, and all of a sudden it popped over and Senator Brock was reporting it for Senate Finance on the Senate calendar, and then it got delayed. So I don't know exactly what's happening.
Option
but,
tax.
So it's a local option tax? My understanding is that they haven't gone through the whole charter process. So we'll have to, if that bill comes over here, it'll be interesting to understand.
Yep. It's
Unusual for our Senate colleagues to start a charter bill. Yeah, we usually start over here. And then,
Did Senator Massa?
No, this is Senator Chittenden and Ron Hinsdale. Yep, and this is just a charter change.
and is it just for the town of South here? No, this bill proposes on it. Interesting.
Yeah, no. Any Vermont
That would-
municipality to adopt a 1% local option tax on sales, so it's, I don't want to speak to what I'm interpreting right now.
Yeah, so we'll have
Without knowing more.
to, so it seems like there'll be a conversation about whether we continue to do local option taxes one town at a time or allow towns to have that authority under general law. It sounds like that's what's coming to us. I was misunderstanding
What's our town that have that on the option taxes? I mean, I see it when I pay my business's taxes, there's like a punch list. Check the box if you have to send that in. I mean, we gotta be up to like 60 something municipalities at this point, 70.
I don't know that it's quite that high that are on the general local option tax, but when we get Tucker back in here, he could talk with us a little bit about the history. So there were many towns that had some form of local option tax that predated the modern era of the additional 1% sales tax.
Mm-hmm.
So there are some odd ones that are kind of just hanging out there in municipal charters from the pre-modern era, as it were. For instance, the city of St. Albans, I think we had one on alcohol that was a local option tax that was really old.
Mm-hmm.
And then when we voted in the local option tax for sales tax and meals and rooms, we sort of combined the old alcohol tax with that and just did a 1% on all of those sales taxes. So it's an interesting. The history of it is a little more complicated than I totally understand. We should have Tucker when we have him in here on these charter changes, give us a little bit of history. So we got ahead of schedule in here.
Okay.
So
Shall I sit?
if you're ready,
Yes, this is a really simple charter change.
and so
11, Grand Isle Chittenden, hello.
welcome to House Gov.Ops Military Affairs. You're here with the Albert Charter Village.
Charter change, Alberg Village charter change. It's very simple. It's a two-phase process. They were having problems having an elected town clerk, town treasurer, because they were having issues with oversight. So they took a vote last May when they have their annual meeting, and the town voted, yes, we want to have an appointed town clerk treasurer, and that town clerk treasurer has to come from the village of Alberg. 6 months later, they have found no qualified candidates. So that's really what this charter change addresses. Partly it addresses, yes, the voters said we want to have an appointed town clerk. And also we would like to expand the search area beyond the village of Alberg. And that's it.
Representative Hango.
Thank you. So beyond the village of Alberg, meaning the town of Alberg or other surrounding towns?
Everywhere.
Okay.
They have gotten no qualified applicants. And they just want to expand it, hope in a perfect world, I've been told they'd like to get someone from Grand Isle County.
Yeah.
And that would be lovely because Alberg is kind of a haul. But they just want somebody qualified who can help them because right now the village trustees are doing both of those jobs on a volunteer basis. And they would like not to be doing that anymore.
And it's an appointed?
Yes, so basically the reason they want to do that is so the select board would then be in charge of that person and they want to have some authority over those two positions.
Okay, and it's clerk and treasurer.
Yes.
Thank you.
So the original vote to move to an appointed clerk and treasurer included a residency requirement. Did that get put into the village's charter?
That is, as far as I know, nothing has happened with the charter until right now.
Okay. So, but there have been two votes. So there was a vote to move to an appointed.
Yes.
And then this includes both that and the removal of the residency requirement.
Exactly.
Clerk and treasurer position.
Yes.
Okay. That seems pretty straightforward as well. There's a transitional provision that pretty common in here. So it sounds like, and we'll have Tucker walk us through the language when we pick this back up, but it sounds like there's just the standard
Yeah, I mean,
annual appointment.
yeah, it doesn't, there's nothing new about how they want the appointment length to run. They just, honestly, all they really want to be able to do is hire somebody or two people to have these positions that they can have oversight over and expand the search area.
Given that the date in here is May 1st, 2023, one thing that we might flag when we pick this back up is just figuring out if the bill, like let's say we pass it out of here next week and then the Senate takes it up, it's possible that it hasn't actually been signed by the governor by then. So I don't know how we would address that, but that's a question that I'll ask Tucker if you want to make a note for him just about, if we don't quite get it passed into law by May 1st, if we want to give some flexibility around that first date that becomes available, or if we even need to, but. Any questions for Representative Levitt?
Great.
Seems like a lot of towns, we did this in the city of St. Albans, a lot of towns, villages, cities are moving toward appointed clerks and treasurers.
I suspect I'll be sitting here next year doing the same exact thing for Grand Isle.
So an interesting thing is I think that there's some general law provision, this is another question that we should ask Ledge Council, but I think unless it's explicit, that towns can already do this, unless they explicitly have a charter that says that it's an elected clerk treasurer.
Grand Isle doesn't have a charter, which makes it even more complicated. So everything has to go to a vote.
Okay.
Because Grand Isle that's just how Grand Isle rolls. But Alberg has a charter. It's a lovely charter. It's very antiquated. And Tucker is trying to help clean up some of the language to make it a little less gender specific and, all those things that Ledge Council seems to be working on, which I think is great, just cleaning things up. But Alberg, This was, the minute I won the recount, they're like, please help us with this. I said, happy to, so.
Great. Well, I think we're gonna do, today we're trying to get a flavor of what some of the challenges might be in a few of these charters. And then we'll be weaving votes and hearing from Ledge Council and any questions on them into some of our work over the next couple of weeks and try to start moving them. So
Excellent.
we will definitely get to work on it in the next week or so.
Thank you for your time.
Yes.
Of course, of course. Now back up to hear about young farmers.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Give my regards. Give my regards to Chair Durfee.
Did you say yay?
Right, so looks like we've got a few minutes here. I think what we'll do is take a quick break so that we don't have to sit here on live because we're scheduled to be back at 11:25 with the Springfield Charter.